Here is a man of significance. Gold medalist, All-American, NBA champion, Hall of Famer, one of the NBA's 50 greatest, an unprecedented all-around performer, and a fearless pioneer. His legacy so large, he must be called Big. Here is Oscar Robertson, the Big O. Let me talk a little bit about your game. I have a video of you in high school.
Oh, that's a long way.
Jumping up, touching the top of the square, blocking the shot.
Boy, that's a little old time.
Was it? Now watch, they're gonna slow it down. They're gonna slow it down one time for you. Put that number 14.
Oh, goodness.
When we watch tape or young guys think about it, we don't think the guys in your era was as athletic. But you're 6'5", and your elbow touches the rim. You're at the top of the square.
I don't know quite touch the rim, but I can jump pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, but I've never seen you dunk. You said you dunked in practice one time just to show you could.
Well, Coach won't let us dunk a ball in practice when I was in high school. He said he didn't want any showboats on his team. I never forget one time I was coming down the court. I used to do those things Marcus Haynes did with dribbling.
Yes.
Fall down, lay down, try to get guys. I went behind my back. He blew the whistle. He said, "Hey, listen." He said, "If you ever do that again, you'll never play for me." And now I know why what it meant. He didn't want us to be called Globetrotters.
Right.
And I'm sure if I'd have dribbled the ball behind my back in a basketball game, the press would have said, "Oh, the Harlem Globetrotters, clowns on the court." That's all they would have said.
I wrote a little scouting report on your game, and I'd like to read it to you. But this is what I saw with my own eyes on tape. Triple threat with the live dribble, you were deadly. You like the live dribble. You really love to pump fake and play with the ball and then explode. You switch speeds great. You were fast, but it seemed like, to me, you were quicker than you were faster. So you used to push it and go, but then if you slowed down, it was like when you slowed down, you were faster than just boom out the gate. Pick and roll is unstoppable. You know, the way you use your butt on the pick and roll is like you would post up, move the butt to the left, push him on the side, and come back with the butt. You and Barkley, and then you have to go to Wayman Tisdale. I couldn't get around.
McGuire.
Yes, and so great at creating space. You know this, obviously, but the baseline jumper was so deadly, fade away.
Let me tell you a little story. In the gym we had one main court, had baskets on the side.
Okay.
So you couldn't shoot from the front because that's where all the guys were playing. So I shot from the side. I shot so many shots from the side in the gym, it was unbelievable. And I didn't realize how that would be a full runner to me shooting shots from the side, from the corners and whatnot. That's where I started doing that. Because of this gym we had was a gym that, once they played on the main court, there was no room to shoot. You could only shoot on the side.
You were methodical.
Well, I wasn't really, I used to read a lot of books about position. I used to watch guys like Hugo Green, and I watched a lot of guys who were older than I was, played in the park, whatnot, how they make moves. I wonder, how could they do that? What were they doing it for? Then once you get out there, you start setting guys up. I think when you get into a game that you've never seen a guy play before, you do certain things to see what he's going to do.
Right.
I remember years ago when I was in high school, we played the All-Star game against Kentucky. They had a guy named Kelly Coleman that averaged like, oh, good Lord, 50 points a game. So I didn't know who he was, and he comes into to get ready to jump up for a ball, and he says, "I'm gonna get 50 on you tonight." I said, "Who the hell is this?"
Yeah. I was at that Kentucky game every year.
Yeah, I said,
in high school.
I said, "Get what?"
Yeah.
I said, you know what? So I wasn't a bragger.
You said talk is cheap.
I said talk is cheap.
I know exactly what you said.
I said talk is cheap.
And I think he had 6 points.
Yeah, he didn't get very many. I've been around a lot of guys, talk, especially when you play in the park, they talk a lot, but they don't come up and say, "I'm gonna get 50 points on you." Right. Oh, come on, man. Hey, man, the adrenaline starts to flow then.
Yeah. And he didn't know you had a brother who used to talk all that. You've seen all that,
I've seen all that all my life, And I always tell people, you think you're so great, there's always someone out there that's got your clock. But if you got the fundamentals and you play instinctive basketball and you react to what's going on, then you can get by. I said, I used to go at the basket. I didn't think anyone could stop me getting to the basket. They double teamed it. When they double teamed, I just passed the ball to the open guy.
If you couldn't shoot free throws as well as you did, Would you have been as good? Because could you have been aggressive going to the basket? I mean,
No.
your free throw percentage was so high, but you, in the book, you're mad at yourself. The most times you get mad at yourself is missing a free throw.
Well, I wasn't, when I first got started, my coach had us shooting them on the hand, and I couldn't do it. And so then we started shooting them hand. And I used to miss a lot of them, you know, because, you know, I mean, where I played, no one shots worked on free throws, man. You hit jump shots and dunk the ball and whatnot, but you never work on free throws. So I got in the gym, I just worked on free throws forever. For hours and hours working on free throws, where it not only was it a mental thing, it was a motor type operation, where you there, boom, you just let it go. You know it's going to go in. So all those things like that, it takes practice and time.
In my opinion, in the 60s was the new dawn of sports, because when you, Russell, Wilt came. From reading your book, I understood that the game was a big man, Mike in the middle, passing it to guys cutting and coming across.
Yes.
But when you came in, it's no more underhand jump shots. I mean, you actually were in the era of underhand jump shots and overhand jump shots. You went to overhand jump shots. Then I see you do a crossover. I tell my nephew this all the time. The really great guards can shoot off of 1 and 2 dribbles. Because when you drive to the hole, you can stop it. But I still only think you, Kobe, and Jordan, well, Kobe and Jordan in my era, the ones that I really knew how they mastered it, along with the pump fake. Just simple 2 dribbles, up and down pump fake. And
well, I don't think people teach that anymore. Like, you look at college basketball today. Guards don't probe. They get against the zone, they pass the ball around all over town, get down to like 5 seconds to try to shoot a jump shot. You should get the ball inside, create, attack them, make them move. That's why they play zone, because they can't guard you. Basketball today, with the zone defenses, that's when you get 3-point shooters or dunkers. I don't think you win unless you got an inside presence. You got to get inside to win. I'm so happy and appreciate the players I played against with their abilities, because I think they made me a better basketball player.
Oscar Robertson consistently delivered peerless performances, all the more impressive considering the peers he played with and against during the golden age of basketball.
I was taught, get the ball inside, get the ball to people, keep the floor balanced, keep the game under control and whatnot. I was taught that ever since I started playing basketball. And then I got with these great players like Kareem and Wilt and Bill and whatnot. You know, it's a different type game. You know, I always tell Russ, I said, big guys with their back against the basket can't tell me anything about basketball. But that was funny. And it's interesting because all the games I played with Bill at the All-Star game, we never lost. And Kareem, when I met him, you know, he was emerging as a great star. You know, I could see the potential in him. Everywhere we went was a sellout. They wanted to see Kareem play. I mean, you know, giant guy could run, could shoot the hook shot. You know, but to certain things that Kareem was doing, you know, he hadn't experienced it before. Like, he didn't go to his left. I said, no, use your left hand sometimes. I said, fake it, go back to the drop step, hit the little fadeaway jump shot. I said, you got your sky hook. No one can get to that. But do these other little things, you know. And, you know, he learned them. You know, Kareem was a smart, intelligent person, great passer. I told him this, too, once. We were playing, and I'd cut, and he'd fake the ball, boom. So once he passed the ball, we were playing against the Lakers, I believe, and I missed a layup. It went into halftime, and the guys were laughing like crazy. They said, oh, you blew that layup. I said, yeah. I said, you know why? I said, hell, I never expected to get the damn ball.
No big fella give it.
But Kareem was a great passer, great adept passer, because I think when you're that gifted and that great a basketball player, you get so many double teams, you got to learn to get the double teams off of you. And Wilt was great at doing that after he got into the game a little while. A lot of guys today, man, they get a double team, they don't know what to do with it. They don't know where it's coming. Hey, you know, if guys double teams me, I know who he's guarding. You got to know those things, but sometimes that goes like water over a dam. Guys are playing today.
Let me just ask you this. I know you can't predict and Ghost can't play, but Shaq, Kareem, and Wilt, what do they have in common and what were they different at?
I don't think any of those guys could have stopped Kareem from shooting his hooks. Okay. And they tried.
Yeah.
Some came close, like Nate Thurman did a great job on Kareem, but doesn't matter, he still got those hooks away. Wilt and Shaq. It'd have been interesting because I think Shaq powerfully built. Wilt was strong up top, you know what I mean? But Wilt just went laying those flippers and dunks and whatnot. You just couldn't keep him out from underneath the basket. I'm sure there's been a lot of talk about Shaq versus Wilt. The problem is you never better know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
It'd have been a good match.
Yeah. Elgin Baylor. I don't know much about his game. You say he was a high flyer. You're like he could do. Could you describe it?
Elgin could shoot the jumper, could go to the basket. You can't keep him from going to the basket. I mean, if you want to get there, he could get there. What I don't understand is the press, how they've gone away from Elgin as a great basketball player. I think what happens today is that the sports writers get into a room on this, on the current players. Of course, some guys are great players. They saw Larry and Magic and what these guys play and whatnot. They didn't see Elgin. They had to have seen him do something. I mean, here, guy, when you average 37 points a game and about 15 rebounds, he just knew how to play. I wish we could go back in time. I wish we can do it. For whoever they say is the greatest forward of all time. You know, it's not going to be where this Elgin's going to score 30 points and you get 0. It might be 30-29. That's not to say the guy who plays against is not a good player. So I think there are a lot of guys who could play. I think fundamentals are a real key in playing. You get to playing a big guy. I've always said, you know, if he's so great, we'll see when he hits the floor. I'd like to see Elgin play against these guys today. If you didn't have fundamental sounds and good foot movement, you're not going to guard Elgin.
Can you give me an example of a guy, I don't know how good he was, that played in your day but played for, you know, a team in a low market, and if he was better, we'd know him like a household name? Anybody?
You take a guy like Gus Johnson.
Okay, yes.
I thought he was a terrific player. He and Wes Unseld were two of the best rebounders I've ever seen together. I'm telling you, they could go get it, man.
Okay.
And they were tough, man. But you know, he played at Baltimore. You know, he didn't get the accolades that a lot of players, I'm going to say, who played in New York.
Yeah.
And hey, it's debatable whether he was a better player, but I thought he was better than a lot of players that were rated ahead of him.
Right.
I mean, he didn't get to play from the press or from the media.
Tell me a little bit about Zeke and Donut. Tell me a little bit about you and Jerry West.
Jerry was an interesting person, great guy, by the way. I don't know who first started calling him Zeke anyway, and he started calling me Donut, of course.
Yeah, that's funny. I was like, why Donut? And I guess, I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense.
But we had developed a great friendship.
And talking to Mr. West and hearing his comments, and it is unequivocal in his mind that you are by far the best. It is no...
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it is no...
Jerry's a great player himself. When you first start playing, you play with 8 teams, Chris. Either you're going to get better or you're not. Either the people you're playing against will make you better, and you've got to meet that challenge, or you just fade away. And I'm so happy and appreciate the players I played against with their abilities, because I think they made me a better basketball player. Cousy called one day and he said, because he called everybody babe, he said, babe, I'm gonna trade you to Baltimore. I said, well, babe, I'll tell you what you ought to do. I said, I think you should look at my contract.
Oscar Robertson's career in Cincinnati was spectacular. Rookie of the Year, perennial All-Star, NBA MVP. But as the 60s drew to a close, Robertson was on the move. They didn't realize, you know, they didn't even read the contract because they didn't realize they couldn't trade you.
Well, this is ironic that when Bob Cousy came here with the thought to move the team from Cincinnati to Kansas City, he wanted to trade me to Baltimore for Gus Johnson. And I think Gus Johnson was hurt then. So in other words, he just wanted to get rid of me. And the paper's just going crazy about that. I'm going to trade me because I hadn't done anything, and that, you know, I'm old. Cousy called one day and he said, because he called everybody babe, he said, babe, I'm going to trade you to Baltimore. I said, well, babe, I'll tell you what you ought to do. I said, I think you should look at my contract. I never heard back from him since. I heard from the attorneys, of course. They called my attorney at that point and said, where do you want to go? So we fooled around with it, finally decided on Milwaukee.
I read an article. I went back and did some research. You came back after a 12-game injury. You had a triple-double. And the article said you showed signs of your growing being hurt. And I was like, I wish I showed those signs, because I'd love to have triple-doubles on a hurt groin.
See, you have to understand that in this climate here, this is what you're going to get all the time. It's just that as a black athlete, you're held to a higher standard. They want you to win, you know. I mean, they don't want you to play good and go 8-3. They want you to be 12-0. If you're in the game, they want you to produce at all costs. They said I hadn't done anything for 10 years. And, you know, it didn't bother me what they said, but when the newspaper started siding with the comments that were made, then I said, that's it for me. They're gonna say that I never did this, I never went after loose ball.
Yeah.
You know, it was just, I mean, after all I've done for them.
The quote was, you never had a rug burn in 10 years in Cincinnati.
But after all I've done for them,
yeah.
This is what, and people start believing that stuff, man. I was telling my wife, I said, you know what? I never play here again. I said, you know, this is it for me. So then I went to Milwaukee, of course. I'm in Milwaukee. We won a championship. And I see in a big magazine cover, it's 3 pictures of me fading, like I'm going out backwards. Yeah,
and you just won a championship.
Yeah. then the damn guy, the writer who wrote, comes up and wanted to do an interview. I said, man, you get the hell away from me. I said, I don't even speak to you.
And it seems, you know, people pile on, and all of a sudden it becomes the truth, and you're like, okay, if that's what you want to do.
Well, they resent you being a star. They resent you going home, living with your wife and your kids. They resent you going to the ballet and the opera and being able to conduct yourself when you're around kings and queens. They don't know what to say about you. They're gonna start inventing stuff. I said, I'm quiet because I don't know you. You're not my friend. Why should I come up and smile and grin at you all the time?
Right.
I said, you know, where I live is what I do with my family. Right. But I didn't like it because they try to take advantage of you. Because they could. From that point on, I just wouldn't talk to them. That's what they really hated.
Yeah.
Hated more than anything.
I look at the ceremonies that were in the NBA for our greatest. I remember watching Kareem in the rocking chair. I remember Karl Malone getting a nice motorcycle. How was your retirement?
My last year in Milwaukee, the Bucks came to me. They said they want to have this day for me. So I thought about went home. I told my wife, I said, you know what? I won't play here again. She said, what do you mean? This is not a date. This is a retirement that they're having. I said, you know what, the sad thing about it, they're not men enough to come and tell me that. They're going to say, we're going to have a day for Oscar. You know? So I went through with it.
You know, I've often been asked on different occasions about certain highlights in my life, and this goes without saying, this is one of the biggest I've ever had. My family and myself deeply appreciate everything that you've done for me. The gifts are lovely, and everything that's been connected with the big old day has been fantastic. I'd just like to say that getting awards is very good as an athlete. Being honored is very great as an athlete. But I think the most rewarding thing that an athlete can have is to have his friends with him when he's being celebrated on a day like this. I think this is much more rewarding than anything I could ever receive that's material. Basketball has been my life. I enjoyed it, and I hope I brought a lot of joy to a lot of other people as well.
So I don't want to play here anymore. But for them to have a day, but in their mind, it was a farewell party, which is fine. I think I didn't know what they were doing.
So listen, it is no legacy of greatness in Milwaukee. None. Because you're not there, Lou Alcindor isn't there, no one that you guys had are there. If we don't have ties of who are the greatest, if in the family I don't know who my grandfather was and how great he was, or my father, it's a missing link there. And how can I be a winner in Milwaukee if nobody in Milwaukee's ever won? Not the owner, not the people. So how can they tell me if you're not there?
People don't respect certain players when it comes to what they can do for a team. I've been invited more out to Sacramento for games and different functions and whatnot than I have been at Milwaukee. Maybe Milwaukee feels they don't need anything. They got it all.
Milwaukee hasn't been good since you left.
I never forget this. We went to the Olympics and I was with Jerry West, you know, and I just couldn't believe that a kid born in Bellsburg, Tennessee, and could play for your country. I said, man, we're over here in Rome. It happens so fast, you don't understand it for a while, you know?
Yeah. In 1964, the world was changing. The U.S. was at war in Vietnam. President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act into law, abolishing racial segregation in the United States, and Martin Luther King was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. The Beatles arrived in America, igniting a firestorm and creating a new fan base in a new country. 1964 was a busy year for Oscar Robertson. He was receiving accolades of his own, standing up for players' rights, and traveling to various countries to showcase the NBA on a global scale. You went on the first official trip from the State Department
Yes,
in
we
the
did.
government. And could you tell me who went along with you and how was it? What did you guys do?
Cousy and myself and Casey Jones, Russell, Jerry Lucas, Pettit, and Heinzen. Went to Yugoslavia, went to Romania, Poland, and Egypt. I think if I can recall, we were going on to go over there and play 1 or 2 games. When we get there, it ended up to be like a 6-week tour. We played games everywhere. And the thing about it, it was people just loved it. You know, I mean, it was such a tour that it's sort of where we went. The word in front of us kept growing and growing and growing. But it was an interesting trip because you saw different people from different walks of life, and most people friendly. I mean, the only problem we really had is in Yugoslavia, they wouldn't run our flag up under theirs, of course, for the game, and our back walked us off the floor. And the ambassador from the USA left the arena.
Oh, like almost had an international incident.
I guess he didn't have the guts to stand there and do that. But you know, I mean, you don't understand Auerbach smoking that damn cigar. You know, everybody off the floor. The hell with them. They don't put our flag up. We're not playing.
Oh, I love it. So Auerbach takes cigars.
So we went into the locker rooms. He's also. I said, well, they're gonna run it up. And they did. So they ran up, we went back out and played.
Did you ever take time to look up in the sky and say, I can't believe where I come from and I'm over here?
I did that a lot because I tell you once, I never forget this. We went to the Olympics and I was with Jerry West, you know, and I just couldn't believe that kids were born in Bellsburg, Tennessee, and could play for your country. I said, man, we're over here in Rome. And, you know, we got a game to play, and we went to Lugano, Switzerland, went to Geneva, took a train over the Alps for all night to get into Rome to play. It happened so fast, you don't understand it for a while, you know? Yeah. That's when I first met Ali come on, tell me the greatest, man. He said, tell me you're the best. He said, go ahead and tell him. I said, no, I can't do that. He said, no, yes, you can. He said, tell me you're the greatest basketball player in the world. I said, no.
It's the 50th anniversary of your MVP. I didn't know that you were voted MVP of the league and the players had to vote.
Yes.
That must be one of the best awards you've ever received because that meant the people you were busting their butt had to pay homage as opposed to no politics could be in that almost.
I think it meant a lot to get that. But you know, I just say this, that during those days, it's very, very difficult for a guard to be MVP of the league.
In the 60s, I mean, you had one MVP.
Very difficult.
The other 9 were big fellas.
Russell, Chamberlain. It was very, very difficult, and because of the way things had evolved. Because until Russell came on, you didn't have guys who blocked shots. Right. I mean, you had a lot of centers who were big people, but very few of them blocked shots like Russell blocked shots. Then Wilt came on. He just revolutionized the game. Actually saved the NBA, myself, I think. He averaged 50 points a game one year, man. And then they moved Wilt around, trying to get him to the right market. And then finally he went to Los Angeles and won a championship. But, you know, that's what happened in those days. But it's really something to see how things happen and the reason they happen.
This is All-Star Weekend, the pomps, the circumstance, the adulations and celebrating. I remember going to Cleveland and meeting you and the 50 greats. You know, All-Star is just so big. But 50 years ago, it was a much different matter. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, 50 years ago, we had an All-Star game in Boston. And we had a meeting with the Players Association prior to that to try to get our executive director, Larry Fleischer, to represent us in formal meetings with the owners and their representatives. And they turned it down. J. Walter Kennedy, I believe, was the president of the basketball, executive director of the basketball NBA. He turned it down, and so we had a meeting in the locker room. We called both teams in, the East and West end, and told them the situation. And that since we had no representation, and the owners decided that they would not meet with us, that we shouldn't even play the game. Because really, the All-Star game is not a scheduled game that you have to play in. You know, I mean, they'd like you to play in it, but I mean, you know, you don't get paid for that. Maybe you do now. Years ago, you didn't get paid any money for playing in the All-Star game at all. But anyway, we met, and we start talking and whatnot, and then here comes certain people in from the NBA. Our back came in, and he was threatening people and cursing with his cigar, and then some PR people came in, and the owner from the Los Angeles Lakers came in and threatened everybody. And it was just a series of threats like that, and how we're going to run basketball. And TV was ready to go. The game was supposed to start at 8, and so, boy, no 8 o'clock, no warm-ups or nothing. And it got really hectic there for a long time. And finally, you know, some guys were told to win 50% for it, some were not. And so we just figured that, okay, if you're not with us, you know, we'd appreciate it if you leave the locker room, go wherever you want to go. But nobody left. Eventually, we all agreed, the owners and the players, that, hey, we'll play the game, and we'll have our representative, Larry Fleischer, to represent us at meetings.
Though the game started and it had no mention in the game of the standoff that had just happened.
Probably not. I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't want that to go across the airways, no doubt about it.
Were you prepared to sit in that locker room?
Oh, I was myself. I mean, because I'd been in a lot of meetings with owners and whatnot, and for something like that, which meant nothing. It's almost like having an attorney to represent you in formal meetings, and they said no. But some of these people were attorneys themselves, so they had a leg up on us legally in talking about different things. It's just a matter of control. They wanted to control everything we did, and I'm glad we did that. I'm glad we made that stand. When you're black, I'm sure you understand the situation in America. You don't think you're different from anybody else.
No.
You do the same things they do. Sometimes you make mistakes, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you do great things.
Oscar Robertson made history from an early age. As a high school phenom in Indianapolis, he led Crispus Attucks High School to back-to-back Indiana state titles in 1955 and 1956. The first ever for an all-African-American team. All championships are meaningful. Some mean more. Could you just talk a little bit about what it was like winning those 2 championships at Crispus Attucks? Could you talk about the pride that it infused in your city?
Yes, it did. First all-black team to win in the country anyway. They took us down.
Which was a big feat. I mean, you scoot over that, but I mean, I know you earned it and you were part of it.
I didn't know how big a feat it was then.
Okay.
We get on the fire trucks, we'd go downtown, and I guess the mayor's there, and they say hello. Then they'd take us back out to this black Northwestern Community Center. Well, I didn't know the difference, you know. Then later on, you hear that they felt that they didn't want us in town because they felt we would tear the city up. But that was this white-black thing, to be honest. I mean, that's all it really was. You know, other than the color of our skin, we were just like anyone else. We went to school, played ball, and fortunate for us, we won basketball games. And that put us in a category where they had to write about us. They had to say something good about us, you know, because our coach wouldn't let us do anything at all. I mean, he was great for an all-black high school in Indianapolis during those years. But our coach was great because he had been around whites, and we were not. And he knew what it took. You know, I mean, you know, you had to be a gentleman on the court at all times.
After you won the championship, you were depressed.
Yes.
It's hard to forgive them for this. I try, but I can't. We weren't savages. We were a group of civilized, intelligent young people who, through the grace of God, had happened to get together and win some basketball games. We just won the biggest game in the history of Indianapolis basketball. They took our innocence away from us. How can I forgive them for that? I eventually left the bonfire and the celebrating. Stretching out on the living room floor, I turned on the television. My dad stood behind me, not asking a question, but concerned. I said, Dad, they don't want us.
That's true.
And this is after the happiest moment of your childhood life.
It is, but you know, because the first time it happened, I wasn't aware of it, but I was the second time. You know, you just wonder. I mean, when you're black, I'm sure you understand the situation in America. You don't think you're different from anybody else.
No.
You do the same things they do. Sometimes you make mistakes, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you do great things. But for people to think that you're this devil, you know, and that you got horns growing out of you and whatnot. You know, you start thinking about that, you know. I didn't quite understand a lot of things that were happening because I went from an all-black school to the University of Cincinnati where I didn't know what kind of basketball team they had. I just wanted to get an education because in my high school, no one ever mentioned pro basketball. No one ever mentioned playing college basketball. All they talked about was getting an education because they felt, for them, that was a way out of bad money problems, you know, and making your life better, you know, being intelligent, learn to speak and talk to people.
When I think about you now, I think about you in a different way than I've ever thought because I knew that you would help the NBA. Like, for instance, you say right here, we were always at second-class hotels. Teams refused to send their trainers on road trips. I can't believe this. Yeah. But this is where you really get hurt on the road.
Well, it's true. I mean, they didn't have a team doctor, orthopedic man in attendance.
Yeah, you saying here, you said, and it's funny because I'm laughing at you when I'm reading, but you say, all I wanted to do was have a contract where if I got hurt, I still got paid. I'm like, guaranteed? Come on, big O. Like, basketball players, we get guaranteed contracts.
Now you do.
Now we do.
Yeah, but years ago,
yes.
you know, got hurt, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're out.
Yeah.
As far as years ago, very few guys went in the training room to get worked on, man.
Yeah, you ain't want them even thinking you were hurt. Players didn't get paid for the preseason. Wow.
No.
And you can get hurt in those games, and you weren't guaranteed, so you're really working for free, almost getting hurt. Okay. And this is really what is just amazing to me. I didn't realize you guys are getting in from a plane, flying all day, getting in there at 4:30, playing at 6, going straight to the arena. Could you just tell me how bad the conditions were and how blessed we are now, because compared to what you guys had?
The thing about it, if you say we're going to play in New York, we'd get on the first plane going to New York.
Wake up at 5 in the morning.
If it left at 6:30, we'd have to be on that flight, get up there, and then sit down and go to sleep and whatnot, and get up around 4 and eat, and then go play the game. Then get up the next morning, unless we were going back home.
When you talk about, like, not having to train, you say all you got was some cold ice on you.
Well, I used to take my own ankles. I could take my own ankles, put a figure 8 on them. It was great.
When you hurt yourself and you hurt your groin in Cincinnati, you mean you're just messing with it? I mean...
Then I went over to Xavier University, and I got their trainers to work on me.
You went over to Xavier, so it wasn't even the team's trainers. Once again, you had to still go get your own medical.
Yes. Well, they paid for it and everything, but he was a very good... Ray Baldwin, he used ice and heat for 3 times a day.
Is it fair for me to say that you are the Obamacare of the NBA?
Well, for what the guys are getting, I think it's probably true because before that, they didn't have a trainer. They didn't have an orthopedic man in attendance at the game, you know. And they didn't have any of those things. And to be able to stay in first-class hotels.
Yes.
And now everyone's got a private jet to travel on. They changed it from tourist to first class for a while. That means you get to fly on certain planes. So that meant a lot for the guys also. But I think it was for the best, you know. I mean, it made guys, guys went from just being nobody to all of a sudden people start writing about them and traveling and whatnot.
I know it added years to guys' careers because you think about the trainers, and I mean, you think about guys probably playing 5, 6, 7 years longer. I wonder what the average was when you played, and you know, in health-wise. What is the reserve clause that you fought so hard to get rid of?
That, for instance, if you got a contract, if you played 3 years, they had rights to you forever if they wanted to. But now, when the Oscar Robertson case went into effect, they can no longer do that. If you want to go to another team, you could go. They could match the offer, but you could still go wherever you want to go. You didn't have to come back to that team.
And is it fair to say the Oscar Robertson case affected other sports?
I think it did because I'll never forget that one year that I had an agent, J.W. Brown, who wasn't my attorney. Then after that, Sandy Koufax and John Daswell got attorneys to represent them in a contract. But I think that it led up to those types of things, you know, where people would be represented by agents and whatnot so that they could get the best deal possible. Because a lot of owners would write things into a contract, and, you know, unless you got a trained eye to look at it, I mean, you know, because the money part is very simple. I said, I'll pay you X amount of dollars to play basketball. But then if you step on the curb wrong, they say, oh, that's detrimental to the game of basketball, and they could cancel your contract. They had different ways of doing that, but the Oscar Robertson case propelled people into a different light, man. I mean, I said, but now it's almost make basketball players like movie stars, like rock stars.
I believe what you did in the Oscar Robertson lawsuit, these are my words, I believe that it transcended sports. I believe that you fighting for the rights of athletes, you know, my father's from Detroit, worked in an auto factory 35 years. I know what the unions protect and did for him. And so when I look and I talk to older players, younger players, about what the conditions were like, it's almost like you opened the door.
I appreciate you giving me all the honor. I mean, I wasn't quite...
Everyone with you, though.
I do. Guys with me. But, you know, but it made a big difference. I played against the greatest guys in the world. And most of them in the Hall of Fame. I think that playing against these guys gives me a badge of honor.
Oscar Robertson has shaped the modern game of basketball in so many ways. Today, the living legend keeps an eye on the young men following in his footsteps. I'm gonna bring a couple players up and ask you about a couple of things. In Los Angeles Clippers right now, this guy Blake Griffin, he can play. I mean, he can, you know, highlights out this world, but that makes him a target for physical.
Yes, it does.
Do you have any advice? What advice did you give to Kareem? And I'm gonna make sure I call Chris Paul after this and tell him what she said. Would you encourage a guy like that to stay on your big fella? Would you encourage him to just be nice and let the media tell you what to do?
Well, you can be nice because people expect you to win, especially with that team they have today. The only problem about it, you got to be almost like a psychologist. Some guys can't take you getting on them, and some can. And you get to understand which ones, you get to know when to stop. Because I've played with a lot of guys, and you look at their stats, they got 2 rebounds. I said, hey, man, come on. And what I would do, Chris, I mean, I'd throw him the ball on the offense. I'd get him into play a lot. Because I felt that if you get your worst player on the offense, you're going to win. And so we had plays at Milwaukee, per se, where I think most of them went to Kareem, and I'd always get the other guys in the game. I'd make sure they got shots. And when guys who are shooting the ball on the offense are going to work for you. So I always knew that.
The first 10 years of your career playing well, you don't have the biggest market. People give you accolades, they talk about you. They didn't respect you when they traded you at the end. Carmelo Anthony is in the same position. I feel I've been there for other players have been there.
They've said that Denver, Carmelo was, he's the reason they're not winning. Well, hell, every time they got in trouble, they threw in the ball to score, didn't they?
I look at all this energy around Melo, like it's just negative. But I would give Melo to shoot my last shot in New York. He's always going to be the bad guy. They may never truly appreciate him. What would you say to Melo?
I think that he shouldn't make too many comments about what he's going to do. He said if he's going to do it, I'd do it in private. Just go ahead and play ball because he can't win up there. I mean, they're not going to win games, and he can't win with the press. It just, they want him to do everything. I mean, you got, 9 or 10 or 12 other guys on the team? What are they doing? Maybe they can't pick players right. Do you ever think about that?
I wanted to ask you this then. Let's say a guy averages 30 points and his team loses. Is he an all-star to you?
Yes. He's more of an all-star than a lot of people.
He's an all-star. And you would, so winning records doesn't have anything to do with all-stars?
I don't think it does, because here again now, if you get into a situation where you got a great team and you don't perform well, that's a different story. But when you get into a situation where you got a team that's not so good and you putting up those numbers, I mean, they're double teaming you and triple teaming you and doing everything.
The curse of the big markets. Do you have any advice to Kevin Durant being in Oklahoma City?
Well, first of all, let's go back to the system they have about drafting. I think player who's drafted should have a right to say, hey, I don't want to go here or go there. Myself, I'm glad I played at Cincinnati, but I still think that some players, maybe all players, should have the right to say, I don't want to go where the league wants to send me, because what to send me, you don't send a guy, a great player, let's see, to purgatory. You know, he's never going to get out unless you make a trade or something.
So Aldridge in Portland for All-Star. In my opinion, he is one of the top 10 guys in the league.
You're right.
Didn't start in All-Star.
He's not going to get up there. As long as he's in Portland, he's never going to get the dues.
There's only one that's really an incomparable player when it comes to the very best. And I'm talking about the big O, Oscar Robertson.
You know, this has been one of the best conversations I've ever had. It's just a couple quotes and I'll let you go. Chuck Daly, if he and Michael played at the same time, there'd be a big argument about who's the best. John Havlicek, he's the best I've seen. Satch Sanders, he would flat out kick your ass. Jerry West, greatest player I played against, period. And the last thing, Magic Johnson said, you know, I never knew how good Oscar was till I tried to do it. I think that's your gift and your curse. I think you were so good that unless you try to do the specific things in the specific areas that you did, rebounding, no matter your size, who's under there, shooting, no matter, until you try to do it, I don't know if you can have a true appreciation, because I've tried, and I appreciate it because I could not.
I've always said this, you know, if I ask about this, what do you think about this? You know, people say this, that you weren't that great. I played against some of the greatest guys in the world. Chamberlain, Russell, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor's, Bob Pettit, Frazier's and Dick Barnett's and Dave Beans, et cetera. So I played against the greatest guys in the world. And most of them in the Hall of Fame. I think that playing against these guys gives me a badge of honor, saying that I played against guys that had complete games. They could play defense. Man, they could shoot off the dribble. You know, I mean, and they were real. And you played them 13 times.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes, when you got more teams, 10 times. And that meant a lot. That meant a lot to me. And when I see people on television talk about, oh, this guy couldn't have done this, that, they don't know that. I know this. I could have played against anybody. If I'd played against a Jordan or Kobe or LeBron, I wouldn't take it a personal challenge. I knew what I had to do as a team, as a guard for this team. I knew what our team had to do. I never tried to confront any great player on a personal challenge because that's not the way you play basketball. Basketball is a game of a group of 5 players, and sometimes 3 or 4 on the bench. That's where you get to win it and lose it.
Everybody didn't play the same way, and everybody didn't have your heart, but I'm sitting in front of you. I'm telling you thank you. I honor you. I know you're just a regular man, a great man, but I thank you for not knowing what you were going through back then. I call my father and grandfather cowboys, stoic, strong men. Get it done. Don't complain. Don't tell you about it. Don't brag. It should have been done. You know, don't give me any credit. And I'm proud to know them and to beat them, and in times of weakness, take a little bit from them. And I'm proud I shook your hand, big bro.
I appreciate that.
I'm proud I shook your hand.
Nice to see you.
Pleasure.